Hi. So in the last part of the chapter, Fudge is in an ambulance with Peter and his mom because he swallowed Peter's pet turtle, Dribble. He swallowed him. I guess it was a very small turtle. And they're on their way to the hospital to figure this whole thing out. So let's read and find out what happens. We arrived at the back door to the hospital. Fudge was whisked away by two nurses. My mom ran after him. "You wait here, young man," another nurse called me, pointing to a bench. I sat down on the hard wooden bench. I didn't have anything to do. There weren't any books or magazines spread out like when I go to Dr. Cohn's office, so I watched the clock and read all of the signs on the walls. I found out I was in the emergency section of the hospital. After a while, the nurse came back. She gave me some paper and crayons. "Here you are. Be a good boy and draw some pictures. Your mother will be out soon." I wondered if she knew about Dribble, and that's why she was trying to be nice to me. I didn't feel like drawing any pictures. I wondered what they were doing to Fudge in there. Maybe he wasn't such a bad little guy after all. I remembered that Jimmy Fargo's little cousin once swallowed the most valuable rock from Jimmy's collection, and my mother told me when I was a little kid I swallowed a quarter. But still, a quarter is not like a turtle. I watched the clock on the wall for an hour and 10 minutes. Then a door opened and my mother stepped out with Dr. Cohn. I was surprised to see him. I didn't even know he worked in the hospital. "Hello, Peter," he said. "Hi, Dr. Cohn. Did you get my turtle?" "Not yet, Peter," he said, "but I do have something to show you. Here are some x-rays for your brother." I studied the x-rays as Dr. Cohn pointed things out to me. "You see," he said, "there's your turtle, right there." I looked hard. "Will Dribble be in there forever?" I asked. "Oh, no, definitely not. We'll get him out. We gave Fudge some medicine already. That should do the trick nicely." "What kind of medicine?" I asked. "What trick?" "Castor oil, Peter," my mother said. "Fudge took castor oil and some milk of magnesia and prune juice, too. Lots of that. All of those will help get Dribble out of Fudge's tummy." "We just have to wait," Dr. Cohn said. "Probably until tomorrow or the day after that. Fudge will have to spend the night here, but I don't think he's going to be swallowing anything he isn't supposed to be swallowing from now on." "How about Dribble?" I asked. "Will Dribble be all right?" My mother and Dr. Cohn looked at each other. I knew the answer before he shook his head and said, "I think you may have to get a new turtle, Peter." "I don't want a new turtle," I said. Tears came to my eyes. I was embarrassed and wiped them away with the back of my hand. Then my nose started to run and I had to sniffle. "I want Dribble," I said. "That is the only turtle I want." My mother took me home in a taxi. She told me my father was on his way to the hospital to be with Fudge. When we got home, she made me lamb chops for dinner, but I wasn't very hungry. My father came home late that night. I was still up. My father looked gloomy. He whispered to my mother, "Not yet. Nothing yet." The next day was Saturday. No school. I spent the whole day in the hospital waiting room. There were plenty of people around, and magazines and books too. It wasn't like the hard bench in the emergency hallway. It was more like a living room. I told everybody that my brother ate my turtle, and they looked at me kind of funny. But nobody ever said they were sorry to hear about my turtle. Never once. My mother joined me for supper in the hospital coffee shop. I ordered a hamburger, but left most of it, because right in the middle of my supper, my mother told me that if the medicine didn't work, Fudge might have to have an operation to get Dribble out of him. My mother didn't eat anything. That night, my grandmother came to stay with me. My mother and father stayed at the hospital with Fudge. Things were pretty dreary at home. Every hour the phone rang. It was my mother calling from the hospital with a report. "Not yet. I see," Grandma repeated. "Nothing happening yet." I was miserable. I was lonely. Grandma didn't even notice. I even missed Fudge banging his pots and pans together. In the middle of the night, the phone rang again. It woke me up and I crept out into the hallway to hear what was going on. Grandma shouted, "Whoopee! It's out! Good news at last!" She hung up and turned to me. "The medicine has finally worked, Peter. All that castor oil and milk of magnesia and prune juice finally worked. The turtle is out." Alive or dead, I said. Peter Warren Hatcher, what a question! So my brother no longer had a turtle inside of him, and I no longer had a turtle. I didn't like Fudge as much as I thought I did before the phone rang. The next morning, Fudge came home from the hospital. My father carried him into the apartment. My mother's arms were loaded with presents, all for Fudge. My mother put the presents down and kissed him, and she said, Fudgy can have anything he wants, anything at all. Mommy's so happy that her baby is all better. It was disgusting. Presents and kisses and attention for Fudge. I couldn't even look at him. He was having fun. He probably wasn't even sorry he ate my turtle. That night, my father came home with the biggest box of all. It wasn't wrapped up or anything, but I knew it was another present, so I turned away from my father. Peter, he said, this box is a surprise for you. Well, I don't want another turtle, I said. Don't even think you can make me feel better with another turtle, because you can't. Who said anything about a turtle, son? Dad asked. You see, Peter, your mother and I think you've been a pretty good sport about this whole situation. After all, Dribble was your pet. I looked up. Could I be hearing this right? Did they really remember about me and Dribble? I put my hand inside the box. I felt something warm and soft and furry. I knew it was a dog. But I pretended to be surprised when he jumped up on my lap and licked me. Fudge cried, Oh, doggy! See, doggy? He ran right over and grabbed my dog's tail. Fudge, my father said, taking him away. This is your brother's dog. Maybe someday you'll have a dog of your own. But this one belongs to Peter. Do you understand? Fudge nodded. Peter's dog. That's right, my father said. Peter's dog. And then he turned to me. And just to be sure, son, he said, we got a dog that's going to grow quite big. Much too big for your brother to swallow. We all laughed. My dog was neat. I named him Turtle to remind me. And that's the end of the chapter book. Now, if you really like Fudge and Peter and hearing about their family and the wacky things that happen, there are several other books about this family. The next one is called Super Fudge, and I believe there's Fudgemania, and there might even be another one, but I'm not sure. I know Judy Blume wrote many books about Fudge and his family. Oh, look at it. They're right here. So there's Super Fudge, Double Fudge, and Fudgemania. Super Fudge is the one that comes next, though. And you can hear all about the different adventures that this family has. This one's called, otherwise known as Sheila the Great. That one is about Sheila. So that might be interesting, too. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. My favorite.